What's going on YouTube? My name is Batman, and I thought I would do a quick update on the decaying state of Call of Duty Ghosts. And there's not a lot of new fails to bring to your attention, mostly just previous fails that have progressed to fail harder. And you guys tend to foam at the mouth and get a massive hard-on anytime I start dissecting the faults of COD, so I figured, why the fuck not? Basically, you'll recall in the last video that I did about Ghosts, flailing helplessly as the beast that is lack of player interest toward its throat. I talked about how as more and more DLC came out, this game was going to continue to have serious playlist population problems as the playlist became more and more diluted and divided by those DLC packs between the people who bought them and the people who didn't buy them, and of course as the overall player count in general got lower and lower. And basically that has come to fruition, and I can tell you as a player that it sucks, because the X1 is never above 20,000 total players online. Now I went and checked the player population on my cousin's 360. It was a Tuesday night, I believe. It was about 6 in the evening. Not usually a low traffic time, not a high traffic time, but not usually a very low traffic time for Call of Duty. And the 360 Ghost was at 50,000 total players online. And that's when it really started to hit me how bad this game flopped, because I didn't realize it was that low on the old gen as well. I mean, I figured it would probably be kind of lower than usual, but that's really, really low. So let's say you take away the new gen console split, you add the 20k on the X1 to the 50k on the 360, your player count puts you at roughly 70,000 players online. That's still way lower than any Call of Duty I've ever played at this time of the year, all the way back to MW2. I remember the player count consistently held above 100,000 at least, usually holding between 120 to 140,000 up until the last months of the game. After the 4th DLC had come out and the hype was all blown up for the next COD and the game had been out for 8 or 9 months already, you know, the player count began to drop. But not before then, and even when it did drop, I never saw the player count drop as low as 70k. 90k was usually the floor. With the exception, of course, of, you know, being on absurdly late, like on a weeknight, 3 a.m., Monday morning, the player count would drop off quite a bit. But nobody ever noticed that because very few people were awake, which is, of course, why it was so low during that hour in the first place. And certainly, I never saw the player population drop so low right after the game's 3rd DLC had just dropped. And, you know, I've always paid close attention to player populations because the lower it gets, the less playlists are available. And, you know, for instance, as the player count dropped on Black Ops 2, I had to abandon Hardpoint because it got too laggy, because there weren't enough people in it, and of course, this is back when COD didn't have dedicated servers. Not that dedicated servers have made a fucking difference as far as the lag goes, but the problem is I'm basically restricted to the TDM playlist on the X1 at this point. You know, even Domination rarely breaks 2k total players, which just means lag, 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 because again, those fucking deadies don't work. Now, obviously, Activision or whoever has had to have noticed the abysmally low player count as well. And, you know, when you have a fuck up like this, people get fired, people get pushed out, and depending on the severity of the problem, a lot of people get fired. You know, we see this in business and governments all the time. Basically, what happens is, when stockholders don't get the returns on their investment that they were hoping for, they want blood, because business is generally treated as total war by very rich people, and also because they want to know that the people who caused this mess aren't going to be around to fuck it up again. Now granted, Ghost itself, because it sees such a heavy percentage of its sales on day one before anyone has really had a chance to judge its quality, it might not have hurt profits too badly. And of course, as I've talked about, it seems like they're using the influx of microtransactions to artificially inflate profits and make up for the lost ground. But if I'm Activision and I see these low player counts, I know that's going to hurt sales on the next game. I know there's a dip coming, and I know there's someone to blame. In business, and perhaps unfortunately, anything less than growth is considered very bad. And so the question is, who gets the axe? Now, something I noticed about the most recent DLC trailer was that it was missing 2 prominent, pretty fucking faces. Mark Rubin and Tina Palacios did not make an appearance in the most recent DLC trailer, which is kind of a big deal because every DLC trailer I've ever seen since before MW2 even has featured the developers talking about the DLC they're about to put out. So when you see a change like this to a tried and tested formula, you know it's not on accident. You have to wonder why. I would speculate that there are 2 possibilities. Either one, Activision has run some sort of focus group and concluded that the community hates their faces, Mark and Tina, so much that it's better not to show them in the trailer, which obviously doesn't bode well for their jobs. Or the second and more likely scenario, I think, is that the 2 of them are potentially already on the chopping block. Or maybe they've been sentenced to it. I'll be very curious to see if Mark Rubin continues on as the head of the next Infinity Ward, their Call of Duty, in the same way that Vonderhaar has with Black Ops. And what you also may have noticed about the new DLC is how they released an individual minutes-long trailer for every map, which is also something they haven't done before, and I think signals that they are really trying hard to sell this stuff. And I don't know why they didn't put in another DLC gun. It might be because they were worried about gun balance. I mean, the Maverick and the Ripper were both the best AR and SMG in the game respectively after they released, and I know that pissed off a lot of the players who didn't have the DLC, but they could have done like a DLC shotgun, I mean, because that wouldn't have disrupted gun balance too badly, mainly because shotguns are really hard to use in this game. But of course that also means if they do a DLC shotgun, a lot of the people who buy the DLC are going to be disappointed that they can't have a lot of fun with the new DLC weapon, because shotguns suck ass in this game, and people suck ass with shotguns in general anyways. And the reason the Ripper and the Maverick were so good was because they wanted everyone who tried out the weapons to really like the weapons that they just spent money on, or else they'll be pissed off. So maybe they just decided the safest bet was to just be giant pussies and not release a weapon at all, instead of risking pissing off huge swaths of the community that already hate their guts anyways one way or another. Oh, and Favela. Do you guys remember how during the first DLC I said I thought they were trying to cash in on MW2 nostalgia? Well, this obviously proves that point. I mean, they didn't even reskin it or change the name, and I know people have been quick to attribute that to laziness, but I don't think it's laziness. I think it's just straight up they want people to go, oh, Favela, I remember that map, I have memories on that map, I want to play that map and relive the good old days. And it's almost like it makes you feel like you're in a special inner circle of exclusive COD veterans who have been playing since MW2. But here's the thing, it's not an exclusive group. The vast majority of the 15 to 20 million players who bought Ghosts were probably also at one point part of the 15 to 20 million players who played MW2. It's just nostalgia tactics, and I think it says a lot about a game's quality when it has to rely so heavily on a past game's success, you know? I mean, how much shit have they brought over from Modern Warfare at this point? You know, Makarov, Soap, Zakayev, Price, they have more MW2 customization characters than they do Ghost characters, and then every DLC has had a Modern Warfare map, and it's like, at this point, why not just tie Ghosts into the Modern Warfare universe? Like, how is this the start of a new series if half of the shit available is just recycled from the old one? Anyways, those are some of my lingering thoughts on the state of Ghost. I haven't even played the new DLC. I don't know if I'm going to. I have a decent amount of Ghost gameplay saved up, so we'll see. Maybe by the time I run out, I'll be interested in the game again, but lately I've mostly just been cracking out on Skyrim. I'm not gonna lie. I was even thinking about making some videos for it, but whatever, you know, we just keep it real. In the hood. May the Force guide you, and be sure to rate that ass. This is Batman, signing out!